Will this year be the best year of your life? Renee Kapuku graduated from Oxford, Harvard, and has now been building one of the fastest growing women's development communities in the UK.
Funnily enough, I guess to share an anecdote, there was a time where things were very, very intense, just across the board for both of us.
She's a creative entrepreneur, speaker, and content creator. In this podcast, we tackle personal growth, building a business with a friend, and how to ensure you can thrive for longer.
I want more than just a piece. Wanna be heard from the west to the east. I worked in my craft and I prayed for my time on the scene. The man have never left my team. 19, learned the right creed. Nah, I'm not a right breed, but I might be. In my crease, 9 kids, hit up my G. I'll still never sell out my theme. Well, you know about heritage, you go inherited. Don't chill with the snakes, but the flow's still venomous. Perspective is everything. So much lemonade, I don't know what a lemon is.
Renee.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Pleasure.
As I often do, I don't want to say always do because we haven't had enough episodes, but as I often do, how do you describe yourself and what you do in your own words, rather than the thing we just played?
Sure thing. How would I describe myself? I would describe myself as a community builder. I'm very, very passionate about building communities, building healthy ecosystems, building healthy relationships. I'm a big proponent of the phrase, which is something I say often, that is, you can't do life alone. So I'm a very, very big, very, very passionate about community building. I'm also an educator. I love education. I'm a big, big nerd, love reading, love research, all of that kind of good stuff. But I really believe in the power of education, the power of learning, the power of just finding an interest and really pursuing it authentically and passionately. So that's the second word I would use to describe myself. And then I guess the third word I would use how would I describe myself? A little bit eccentric, quirky, you know?
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't get a quirky read. Maybe I'm not paying close attention. Did you say you're quirky?
Quirky, a little bit, not weird.
Okay.
Quirky.
What's the difference?
I think weird kind of is less wholesome.
Oh, not the wholesome.
I'm trolling.
Got it.
I think eccentric and quirky in the sense of, I think that when you do get to know me, as in the real me behind, I guess closed doors, is you'd find that I'm actually somebody that's quite different. Like, I love memes, I love laughing, I love humor.
Yeah.
I like doing lots of fun stuff with people. And I think sometimes when your, I guess, reputation precedes you, or the work that you do precedes you, people can often think of you as those like works or those things.
Yeah.
And I like the word quirky and eccentric because it feels like it adds more color to a person.
Wow. So I suppose today is going to be us almost peeling onions, if you like, and getting to know a bit more about you.
Layers.
Because the work you do is fascinating, obviously. I mean, folks saw in the video we just put up, and I feel like we have to talk about that, but I would love to find out a bit more about you as well. But I guess in terms of To My Sisters, which is kind of crazy because I mean, like many people, watched or saw the sort of initial, like, okay, this is a new thing.
Yeah.
And it's just grown like wildfire.
Yeah.
And you're getting like over, 100 and something thousand downloads. I mean, what's it been like building this community of sisters, essentially? Not blood sisters, of course.
Yeah.
But sisters. I mean, what unites them? What's that been like?
Yeah. So To My Sisters is, honestly, I would describe it as a privilege. Genuinely a privilege. So I guess to give a little bit of backstory into To My Sisters and how it came about. To My Sisters is something I run with my co-founder, my best friend, and also my housemate, all of the things. My partner
we need to talk about that, by the way.
We'll get into
lots
that.
Of things.
We'll get into that. Business partner, literally my other half, platonically. We've had allegations. We've had the allegations. Just thought I'd clear that up.
Yeah.
But it was something that I started with my best friend of now reaching almost 12 years. And essentially started in her bedroom as a conversation between us two. We're both content creators in our own rights. We're both people that are really passionate about women and developing women and just having these authentic conversations. And we had wanted to do something together for a while. So a couple of years back, before we had applied to university. We had a couple years back, after we had applied and gotten into university, we did a joint video together on Courtney's YouTube channel. That completely like soared, took off. People absolutely loved it. And we kind of just decided to disappear behind the cameras together because we weren't really ready for that limelight. We weren't really ready for, I guess, the responsibility that comes with developing community, and kind of continued to work behind the scenes on our separate things. But then after university, after pursuing the various things that we were, up to, we decided that it was time to pursue something together, but most importantly, something for women, particularly at the time that we started the podcast. So we started it literally on the eve of the COVID.
Really?
Yeah. Literally.
March 2020.
Yeah. So that's the time that we were thinking of that's the time that we were thinking of doing something together. And then eventually in November of that year, we recorded and released the first podcast episode. And the response was, I don't even have the words to describe it. It was unprecedented. I think we did not expect.
That was also the word of that year.
Yeah, right. Unprecedented.
We are in unprecedented times. Unprecedented.
It felt like I was in a Hollywood movie.
Yeah.
But it was genuinely unprecedented. And I think what it revealed to us was this deep need for a lot of people for intimate relationships, a real deep need. The kind of comments that we got, as well as continue to get, often revolve around, I really want good friendships. And I think that especially for women, a lot of the narratives that we often have perpetuated in our circles are around romantic relationships or, professional pursuits. But having conversations around friendship and what it means to actually have female relationships, we found that we had tapped into something that was super relevant to a lot of people.
But why women though?
Why women?
Yeah, why is that a passion for you?
First of all, I am a woman, so I identify as a woman. Okay. And secondly, both myself and Courtney had realized just how pivotal female relationships and female community had been for us in a lot of the things that we do. So I think, again, people often see you and see your achievements and see your works and think that this is something that you did by yourself. I know that the self-starter narrative is something that's super popular these days.
Self-made,
self-started, self-contained, self-maintained, everything around self.
Self-contained.
And no, but when folks are always like, I did this by myself, I can't trust anybody and all that kind of stuff. I think that's something particularly for women as well, that often runs rampant in a lot of, things that we see online, things that we hear about people. And I can honestly testify and say, I am not self-made. I am not self-started. I am genuinely basically an amalgamation of the people that have poured into me, and the people that have poured into me have been women. Of course, there's been men, and of course, there's been other people that have poured into me. But in terms of how much I have really benefited from having community around me, it was something that really drove me, because I realized that a lot of people actually don't have access to these things. They don't have access to these relationships. And a lot of people don't understand that friendships are equally as important to pour into as other relationships, whether it be romantic or professional. But friendships often fall by the wayside. And I can honestly say that through actually committing to the work of developing friendships, I have excellent friends. Yeah. And it's made me extremely happy.
It's so rich and beautiful to see that your relationship with Courtney, as you said, like your closest friend or one of your closest friends, to see how that in turn actually, it's almost from an overflow of that this community exists.
For sure.
Which is such a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Because we were talking before off air about just podcasts and folks just saying things, and obviously it's so easy to say things. I mean, I saw on Twitter today a fully grown man admitting something ridiculous that he did not need to admit.
Oh, I think I saw that too. Yeah.
It made me just feel like, why am I even watching this? I feel like I'm following the person that put up my TL. But anyways, so in an age where you see a lot of that, I think to see people who, this can sound so cliche, but like lived it or are living it, talking about it is pretty cool. But a part of me wonders as well, because I don't want to say what to like working with your friend, because of course it's great, but there's also that narrative that you should never do business with your friend or family even. Right. And I have a million stories of that going wrong, but it seems like it's working for you somehow. So how is that going, that you're friends with your co-founder, you live with your co-founder? And you work with
Yeah.
how does that work?
First of all, of course, it's great. I really enjoy it, and all the things. But it is very hard. And again, it is a testament to the fact that relationships are work. The great thing about the relationship that I have with Courtney is I trust that she's competent. And before anything else, especially as we were pursuing TMS as something that is a business pursuit, before anything else, I trust that Courtney is a competent person in the work that she does and the work that she produces. So I think that it's not even necessarily just about like, what's it like working with your friend, but it's like ensuring that there's that layer of understanding when we're speaking about competency and whether that person is actually fit for the role. I think that you shouldn't, when it comes to working with friends and family, we should never neglect to actually test for competency.
What is that? These like numeric tests? Are these what?
I mean, what's
comprehension?
Great? All of those things. I think what's great about me and Courtney's relationship is the fact that I've been able to see her competency made manifest. So in the work that she actually does as a friend, I can actually judge and say, I think that she's competent. She's a very competent business owner. She's a very competent editor. She's very skilled at design. And in building something like TMS, we basically built it around our specific strengths. So she's very, very skilled at content creation. She's very, very good at editing. She's very, very good at the more aesthetic leaning stuff when we're thinking about TMS. I am a hardcore researcher. I'm very interested in strategy. I love business development. I love handling clients, all of that businessy side stuff.
Yeah.
What really works in our relationship is the fact that we actually are competent in the specific areas that we've chosen, but also we actually complement each other.
Yeah, your skills are complementary.
Precisely. So I think that sometimes when we, think about working with like friends and family and stuff, we often lead in with I like this person. I think it'll be great to work with them. But just because you like a person doesn't mean that it's good to work with them. They actually need to be good at what they do. And I think that can never be understated. So I think what has really helped our relationship in all of the different areas that we work together is the fact that we have complementary skills, we're good at what we do, and we're actually dedicated to excellence in what we do as well. Like it's not a coincidence that, both of us have very, very similar trajectories when we think about education, when we think about work, when we think about our other relationships. It's not a coincidence. It's actually carefully curated decisions that we've made to develop our skill set, to figure out what our careers might look like later on. Yeah. And because of these kind of like complementary trajectories we've had, it's made it so much easier when it, comes to working with each other. That's the more, I guess, practical stuff. But in terms of the nitty gritty and how hard it is to have these overlapping elements of our relationship, it's hard. Like, it's hard. In life, you have to pick your hard. This is the hard that we've decided to pick. It's hard in a number of ways, in the sense that, having an intimate relationship with someone can sometimes blur boundaries. It can make it really difficult to continue to pursue the relationship as it was before business elements came in. And it means that you have to be very dedicated to having radical, honest, transparent, and hard conversations. And we have that.
Gosh, that doesn't sound like a nice dinner. You said all the words. No.
Do you know what? We'll
radical, honest, transparent, hard.
Okay,
you have to have a pizza or.
We like sushi.
Okay.
No. But we'll talk about the hard stuff. There is fun stuff, but I want to get through the
do it. I'm here for it.
So we have the tough conversations. There's been some times where I've cornered Courtney and been like, "Yo, I'm not happy about this."
Cornered. I'm just imagining her like,
just like deer headlights and all that kind of stuff. But no, honestly. And there's been some times where it's like, "Hi, Renee, we need to talk," and I'm like, "Oh gosh, I'm sweating. I'm stressed." I'm like,
"Did I leave the dishes out?"
Do you know what I mean?
No, the accounts aren't done.
You're like, what I mean? But actually, funnily enough, I guess to share an anecdote, there was a time where things were very, very intense, just across the board for both of us. And Courtney did text me and she was like, "Yo, we need to talk." And I was just like, "Okay, shall we talk on this particular day?" She was like, "No, it's really urgent." I was like, "Oh, damn, like, we stressed." So I got home, sat down, and she was like, "Renee, as much as I've really enjoyed like working with you and all that kind of stuff, I feel like we're not having fun anymore." It was very much giving, married couple had hit the hump. Married couple had hit the hump, we'd lost the spark in our relationship.
Got it. Hey there, just want to say thank you for listening or for watching this podcast. We have a great desire to grow this podcast, and one of the ways we're going to do that is if you listening follow, or if you are watching, you subscribe to the podcast. The faster it grows, the more guests we can get, but also the better the podcast gets. So please, just do me a favor, hit the subscribe button or the follow button. Back to the episode.
Okay. And it was actually a great conversation where we kind of talked about, like, you know, we had gotten to a place where we were running on empty, exhaust fumes, and we had not necessarily forgotten but deprioritized having fun in our relationship because there was so much stuff to do.
Yeah.
And what was actually great about that was the fact that now moving forward, what's been great is the intentionality around actually having fun and pursuing that intimate relationship alongside but separately to our business relationship. So we have dedicated days in the month where we actually go out and hang out as friends. Like there was
scheduled
in. Some of them are like not scheduled in because obviously we live together, so I just see her, and sometimes it's you know, let's have a cup of coffee and talk about life.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite days out that we did as friends, we spent the whole day together, no business, no TMS stuff, nothing related. We went to an escape room, we went to brunch, we went to dinner together, and you'd think that because we're in each other's presence so often, like, yo, why are we now doing this together? You have nothing to say to me, I have nothing to say to you. But actually,
run out of conversation.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You think you'd run out of conversation, considering we also run a podcast together. It's like, you guys are still talking to each other? Surely you ain't tired? But no, it was actually one of the best and actually one of our favorite shared memories where we literally just spent the day together laughing because it was just a great experience. And I think in navigating relationships where there are, you know, these different layers, there is the importance to ensure that you do prioritize that intimacy. You do prioritize having fun, because this business life will kill you.
I mean, I'm actually, I mean, kudos to you, man. Hats off that you can do that. I don't think I can. Like, I've worked, every time I've worked with people somebody I really like, or like, I'm really, say, paternal over. I mean, it happened once actually where we hired somebody and they had been working with us for a little bit of time, and they were just like, "Oh, Mike, can I have a conversation with you?" So I was like, "Okay." One thing I hate when someone says, "Never tell me we need to talk."
I hate.
Tell me what you want to say.
That's one of my pet peeves.
Because it's such a when are you free for a chat? Tell me what you want to talk about. I need to know
the content of that chat ASAP.
Because I got a plan in my head. I'm a planner. You can't just say, you know. You can't just ambush me with like a
quick chat.
6 p.m. today. Can we talk? No. You tell me the agenda. I'll decide if I have the emotional wherewithal to sit down. Anyways, he says we want to have a chat. He comes to the side and he's like, I think people are taking advantage of you. I was like,
oh goodness.
What do you mean by that? You know, and I don't want to throw anyone on the bus, but he was like, you know, when you ask for this and this from other members of the team, they just don't like, and they don't do it. And then you say it's fine and then you just leave it. And like I've been watching that happening for a bit of time, and I was just like, no one had ever told me that before, so it was very like, oh. But then I think that showed me my sort of big weakness, which is if I see you as like a business whatever, then my business hat is switched on. If I see you as a family, friend, whatever, you don't get my business, because my business side is intense. My work side is pretty intense, and so and my play side is intense as well. If you were chilling at home, you think I'm 10. Like I'm not a serious person at all. And I remember one time where there was a friend, ex-friend I should say.
Oh no.
Who we got into a kind of business relationship.
Yeah.
But we didn't sign a contract, because who signs a contract with their
your
friends?
Right.
And that relationship meant a like minus 40K hole in our company finances because of course, people have different sides of the story, right? But as far as my side is concerned, unintegral, if that's a word, behavior on their part. But I remember thinking to myself, how is it after all my years of doing projects, I'm in a position where I'm minus 40K. I mean, in the wider scheme of things, it's not the end of the world, but I'm minus 40K in the whole because I failed to kind of properly protect myself using the contract. And that wouldn't happen if it was a business relationship. So I think in my head, it's just like, okay, cool, I've just got to have one or the other. Like maybe there's people listening who are sort of more, it's got to be one or the other. And as you said, you pick your heart. I think that's a brilliant point. maybe this is just not my hard, right? I'm just like, I can't do it, but it works for you.
Yeah, no, completely agree. And I will caveat by saying that, me and Courtney's relationship is a very special relationship because I think we're very similar in that respect. Like I am very much when it comes to business, when it comes to work, there's a certain standard, there's a certain, there's just a certain way that I present myself when I'm engaging in work that is very serious, very competent, very much about excellence. Like I pride myself in excellence and execution. I like when things are done. When it comes to having relationships with people and having fun, CEO of fun time, let's go, turn up. And I think that's where the quirkiness that I mentioned earlier comes from. So I think that outside of, working with Courtney, there are very few people that I would work with or allow that crossover with.
To happen. Because they end up preying on a weakness of yours, or you just can't bring yourself to, like, if I need to dress someone down, I can't do I can't do it to someone I consider like my little brother. You're just kind of like, don't worry. And it's like, no, how are you going to raise a team and don't worry? It's
you
fine.
Wouldn't do this.
You'd be like, don't do that. Well, again, kudos to you on managing to work together. And of course, the result of all that compromise and working together is brilliant because, like I said, the platform you've built is brilliant. And I just pray it goes from strength to strength. We're going to try and get Courtney on at some stage as well to find out a bit about her story. But you guys are just doing amazing work.
Thank you.
I did have one question though, which is maybe part of my digital nomad thing. Yeah. Or digital minimalist thing, I should say. Right. Which is, what's a digital sisterhood?
Oh. Digital sisterhood. The online sisterhood.
Yeah.
The global sisterhood.
What is that?
Essentially, we've gone with digital sisterhood because that's what's connecting us, at least in terms of mechanism right now. So it's essentially connections with women that are seeking platonic friendships or platonic bonds with other women that transcend time, that transcend space, hopefully transcends age. We've got quite a range in our sisterhood, which is exciting. Yeah.
What's the oldest? What's the youngest?
Oldest that we've come across is around like the 45, 46 region. And the youngest we've come across around 15, 16. Super. So we've got quite a range. Although we do have some poolings, the 18 to 24 mark, and then the 24 to 35 mark is generally where our sisterhood is from. Yeah. But the whole point of the digital sisterhood is that it's a sisterhood that transcends borders. I think when we think of family and family structures, we often think of very, very tight-knit, close proximity, physical and in person. And whilst we do have that element in some of the experiences that we have, what's beautiful about To My Sisters is that when you mention TMS or this idea or this notion of digital sisterhood, suddenly it connects you with people that you don't know, but you know that they're probably good peoples. So, for example, whenever folks like stop me in the street or, for example, stop Courtney and they're like, I've seen your podcast, I love TMS. It's like, oh, you're a sister. Or we've had like experiences where we curate live experiences and people come together and it's like, oh, you listen to TMS, you're a sister.
Like the Beehive.
Oh.
Like members of the Beehive.
Nah,
I'm part of the Beehive.
You're a part of the Beehive?
Beyonce was my top listened artist.
Really?
I have no clue how that happened. I think it was the gym. She's on one of the gym
Is she
playlists.
Oh wow, she's your artist of choice.
Cozy.
Okay, fine. Cozy. I hear it.
Sorry, that's not how it
Love
goes,
a good.
Anyways, carry on.
You tried, and that's the most important thing in such trying times. I won't say the Beehive because I'm not ready to get dragged today.
I'm sure some of them are listening. They're everywhere.
And they'll be waiting. As soon as you see me, hello? Somebody backed up somewhere. What did you say about Beyonce? If you even mention her name, what did you say about Beyonce? I don't think we're quite there yet. But
no, you're getting there though.
Fingers.
Okay,
but
sorry.
You know what it
people.
is? I
should stop.
I think of the extremists within the pool because I've seen some very, very. Let's just say they carry a sting. That Beehive.
Oh, look at you!
There we go.
That was good.
But yeah, it's so beautiful that this seemingly innocuous content that we share and these seemingly innocuous conversations that we have connects people so deeply, especially because we have the conversations around, trauma. We talk about family. We talk about, obviously relationships is part of what we talk about, but not entirely. We talk about friendships and, comparison and jealousy and all of these things that make up female experiences. And I think what's beautiful about this notion of digital sisterhood, again, is it connects people without having to rely on physical proximity. But then when, you know, it is bolstered by physical proximity, it means that when you come in person and meet someone in person, there's almost an implicit trust that's built, or an implicit trust that we've had, knowing that that person subscribes to TMS, or knowing that somebody is part of the digital sisterhood.
Well, I identify as a man. I'm a black Nigerian male man. And growing up, there was a bunch of, what would you call them? Things we believed about women. That probably not true. Maybe, but I'm curious, as someone who kind of talks to women, about issues, you know, going on in health and wellness and some of the topics you cover. What do you say to this kind of idea that, you know, when you introduce two guys, they kind of click like that typically.
Yeah.
But it takes a long time for women to click. Is that true, or is that just sort of like? I mean, this is all anecdotal. This is part of the podcast I was telling you about before. But what's your experience of that?
I think what's interesting about that, and it's something that we touch on in the podcast, when we're thinking about safety for women, and when we're thinking about the more the big picture structural forces that can impact our interpersonal relationships. So the way that we are socialized as women, the way that we are socialized as men. And I remember having this conversation with both Courtney, but also a number of my different friends. I've had conversations with a number of my male friends, and, you know, a number of my actual male family members around this whole notion of safety. I think that for many women, when it comes to building relationships, safety can actually play a really big part as to our comfort and our levels of vulnerability and transparency when we do engage. And I do think that there's something to be said around, you know, obviously forces of like patriarchy. But when we think about these larger forces at play, when we're thinking about women's socialization, this can very much impact our interpersonal relationships. And for a lot of women, myself included, it can take a little bit of time sometimes to engage with both other women, men, you know, all kinds of folks, because of, you know, safety, because of transparency. And, you know, I'm a black woman, I identify as a black woman. And, you know, the intersections of race and, you know, gender can often play a very big part as to how we navigate the world and how we interact with other people. And the great thing about TMS and why it's so important to me, and why, you know, we often speak about women's wellness, transparency, vulnerability, is because in the outside world, the way that, you know, black women are typically socialized, we are typically socialized as, you know, very, very, what's the word? It's not reticent. It's like very, very withdrawn. We typically don't have a lot of safe spaces. We typically don't have places where we can gather together and feel comfortable enough to share our, you know, utmost and most authentic self. We don't have, one of the phrases that I often use on the podcast is, we don't have that place where we can come together and kick off our shoes and, you know, drink our wine together. We're not afforded these places naturally when we are, you know, within the world, within society, which means that there's this added layer of, what's the word? Suspicion sometimes when we are engaging with people.
But quick one.
Yeah.
And maybe, obviously, two things can be true at the same time.
For sure.
I don't think men have that neither.
That's true.
Especially
That's true.
black men.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure, that's
maybe
true.
white men may be different. I don't know.
For sure,
but
for sure.
as a black man, when you're talking about kicking off shoes and drinking wine, I mean, you know, mine would be cranberry. That would be my drink of choice.
Dear.
But
what an interesting choice, Mike. I feel like I'm learning so much about you.
I love cranberry.
Beyonce, cranberry juice.
I know, it's a bit crazy. But like, I don't have that, and I just wonder. I mean, I still don't have that really.
Right.
Well, I do, but I mean, black men. So if we both go through that same thing of not having those, say, safe spaces, you know, how does that? How come it doesn't affect us the same way in terms of how we then maybe, or maybe I'm wrong, maybe black men too are super suspicious of each other. I mean, some people might say.
Yeah, I think I am a major fan of the fact that two things can be true at once. I think that the internet doesn't afford for that.
It's like,
anyway,
you're either right or I'm right.
Wrong, and that's it. That's it. You know, that two things can be true at once. And I think it is a testament to the fact that, again, socialization, racialization processes, and the way that it has impacted our capacity to, you know, engage as individuals.
Got it.
However, whilst our experiences, I wouldn't say our experiences are the same.
Yeah.
I think the notion of lacking safety is the same in that, there are, but the way that it manifests is different.
Got it.
So, one thing that I was speaking to earlier was, again, this intersection of race and gender. So obviously I don't want to speak on the experiences of black men and the way that, you guys navigate the world. I love me, my black men. I have brothers, all that kind of stuff. However, there is a privilege that's afforded to men that makes it easier to navigate the world in certain circumstances and certain areas that might be unsafe for women.
Hey there, just want to say thank you for listening or for watching this podcast. We have a great desire to grow this podcast, and one of the ways we're going to do that is if you listening follow, or if you are watching, you subscribe to the podcast. The faster it grows, the more guests we can get, but also the better the podcast gets. So please, just do me a favor, hit the subscribe button or the follow button. Back to the episode. Got it.
So for women, there is the one of my favorite black female activists is Claudia Jones. She's the founder of Notting Hill Carnival. She was, back in the 60s, back in the 50s, big proponent of intersexual feminism. And then of course you have Kimberly Crenshaw speaking about intersectionality, but Claudia Jones used the term double jeopardy when she was speaking about the experience of black women. So this whole notion of being a woman, one jeopardy, and then being black, another jeopardy.
Another one, some might say double homicide.
There we go. You were waiting to use that.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
That was good. No, that was good. Double homicide. But yeah, this whole notion of double jeopardy, and it just speaks to the fact that as black women, the lack of safety, the lack of the way that we navigate the world is typically different, and it means that in terms of our capacity to really be our most innermost self in communities, it can very, very much be limited, extremely limited. And then again, it's not to say that black men don't experience that, but they experience it differently.
How did it feel? I'm curious then, with that in mind, when you went to Tanzania last year, how does it feel being in a kind of black majority country? I don't know if you've been to Africa before.
Yeah.
Super. So what was that experience like for the women there? Was it just so, because I think another compounding effect is the fact that in the UK, black people make up 3.4% of the population. So we also have that minority complex. We're very spread out. London is, I believe, 40% non-white, so it probably feels very diverse.
And
but
then you go out to the outskirts.
You just go to Kent and you're like, oh, where's the rest of us? So what did it feel like when you were in Africa? Oh my God, that sounds like such a...
Yeah, that was a good...
We went to Africa. What's Africa like?
It was giving savior complex.
Do you know what I mean?
How was Africa?
Should roll up my sleeves. In Africa. No, what
did it feel like?
In terms of that safe space, feeling as though you can sort of be yourself, kick off your shoes.
It was a very transformative experience. I think what was interesting about the Tanzania trip was the fact that the ladies that actually accompanied us to Tanzania were from all walks of life. So we had, women from the United States. We had, women that were from Ghana, from Nigeria. We even had a lady who was from Australia, which was insane.
Australia?
There's another one. Stop him, officer. I knew you were going to come out with that one next.
Sorry.
But just the range of people and the different backgrounds really meant that we had the opportunity to kind of create this global hub amongst us as we were going to Tanzania. And I think the beauty in that experience was the different capacities in which people related to that safe space. So going to a black majority country, of course, me being, a member of the diaspora, half Nigerian, half Congolese, for those folks that are interested to know. Yeah, I know.
Well, I always say if you're half Nigerian, you're basically full Nigerian.
Yeah.
such a dominant...
I was about to say.
I'm joking. I don't want to deny your heritage.
No, I love being from both countries for similar and different reasons.
What was the dominant experience at home? Was it mixed, or would you say it was?
It was mixed, but I would say it was more dominantly Nigerian growing up. But then when I got to my teenage years, definitely
you rebelled.
Oh, I rebelled, but also that was that was the time in my life where I was reading Malcolm X. And
okay, gotcha.
Black Power, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Of course.
My little kente hat. Naturally. Until I found nuance and
two things
research.
True.
There we go. Two things are true. But back to the Tanzania trip. It was genuinely a transformative experience because it was us interacting with the diaspora there. It was us interacting in a majority black country and not feeling as though we were out of place. Like obviously there were cultural differences, but it was almost a sigh of relief for quite a few people, especially some of the African American sisters that we had brought with us.
It was their first time going.
It was their first time.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Quite a few of them at their first time. And again, that experience was curated so beautifully in that we did all the fun stuff, we did all the turning up, we did all of that, jazz, but we also did all of the cultural experiences. We also went to go and see some of the I remember a really, really emotional experience where we went to go and see some of the former slave holdings in Tanzania.
Wow.
And that was probably one of the most chilling, transformative, poignant moments of that trip, because you have, again, ladies from across the spectrum. We've got, ladies that are very, very in tune with their history, their culture, very much so. And then you've got ladies that are there trying to explore, trying to discover, trying to understand more. And it felt like almost like a real bonding experience. Like if we weren't family before that experience, we were definitely family.
And then you guys
after
still
that.
kind of in community, still talking.
The trips, the ladies from the Tanzania trip, we call them the Zanzibaris. That was their self-proclaimed title. Still very much in contact. We even have folks who made like really good friends with each other to the point that they've traveled together after the trip. The point that they've kept in contact after the trip, and we've seen quite a few of them again and again. So they come and support all of our like TMS events. They've already signposted their interest in our upcoming experiences, and by signposted, if we don't come, we're rebelling. And some really beautiful friendships have blossomed as a result of that experience. So
I love it. I just love the fact that it's like you've created, and this is what one of the good things about democratization and the internet is you've created a corner in the internet that's just like beautiful.
Thank you. No, we honestly try, but genuinely, one thing that we want to stress, and we've continued to stress about To My Sisters, is whilst we are the front faces of To My Sisters, whilst we are the sisters on the internet, we want people to take this offline into the online. Sorry, we want people to take this offline. I think the trap of social media and the trap of sometimes curating digital communities is they stay digital communities or they stay online. And I think, we've spoken at length about, the dangers of allowing ourselves to be trapped by these online echo chambers, these online parasocial relationships. The call to action that we have at literally the end of every episode is tap into relationships in your real life. Get offline. Once you've finished listening to the TMS podcast, go and grab a sister and go for coffee. Go and grab a sister and go and cry. Go and grab a sister. And if you don't have any sisters, this is your opportunity to build sisterhood in real life. So I think whilst we are, a digital community, whilst we are very much girl power online, we make it our mission for this to be something that's affecting people's real lives too.
One thing that I don't think people do enough, to your point of sort of being black and in the UK, a woman. I think this kind of cuts across races.
Mm-hmm.
Do you take time to kind of take stock? Because you went to what school? What's it called? Your secondary school?
St. Anne's.
St. Anne's.
All girls school in Enfield, Palmer's Green.
Oh God, it's a long way away from here.
Yeah.
In Enfield. You then went on. Did you stay there for sixth form?
Yeah, I stayed there for sixth form. Yeah.
Then you went to Oxford and read what?
History.
What particular period did you do your dissertation on?
I did it on Black transnational feminism.
Super. As you would.
In the 1950s and 60s.
Okay, so 50s and 60s. Then you went to Harvard and did a master's in
international education policy.
Then you came back to the UK and started to, I guess your passions were entrepreneurship in the education space.
Yeah.
Started this community, grew it, within 2 or 3 years, it's kind of shooting up and growing year on year. You've just written a book. Yeah. That you guys is going to be out when?
March 9th.
Like, are you proud of everything?
I am.
You've achieved.
Yeah. My mom is. She's extremely proud. I think she's still stuck in like 2018 though. She's still telling people that she's a Harvard mom. I'm like, Mom, that was you got to get with the program and all that kind of stuff. No, I am very, very proud. But
what does it take to kind of keep bettering yourself in that way.
Funnily enough, that's actually one of my passions. This whole idea of optimization, this whole idea of self-growth and continuing to be better and chasing excellence. And I think it's a fine balance between the two, right? Of taking stock, spending some time really being in the present and celebrating your wins, as well as being able to be ruthless in your pursuit of excellence. For me, I learnt the latter first. I was ruthless in the pursuits of excellence because of my background. Like, neither of my parents went to university, and neither of them had even heard, like, when it came to Oxford and Harvard, my parents were just happy that I got to university. But then when I told them I'm going to Oxford, my mom almost collapsed. But ruthless in that pursuit of excellence because I knew where I had come from. I am somebody that's really passionate about learning. I love learning. I love the process of mastery. I love the fact that I can go from 0 to 100 in however many months or however many years it takes. I love that, I feel like I have untapped potential because it keeps me going. It's like, what can I do and what can I not do? I love that. Literally, I believe that I can do, maybe it's a little bit delusional, but I love that I can at least hype myself up into believing that there's nothing I can't do.
Yeah.
The celebration element, it took me a while to get there.
Yeah.
In that, I think when you're used to being someone that people classify as a high achiever or somebody that people classify as just being in the pursuit of excellence, you're constantly on to the next thing. It's very much about, it almost becomes a high, right? It's like, I've done this, what can I do next? I've done this, what can I do next? Oh my gosh, I mastered this, what can I do next? But sometimes there's so much beauty to be learnt in stillness. And there's so much to be learnt in really just taking time. And I learned that actually more so the last 2 to 3 years or so. Last year was the first time I actually celebrated my birthday, like properly in a big party and all of that kind of good stuff.
Come on.
It was also one of the years that I actually went on holidays, like multiple holidays to just do and be. It was the first time that I actually really spent time with my friends in the sense of booking time to spend like days with my friends and build those like real in-depth, intentional relationships, because I do think that many of us have friends out of convenience, right? We go to school with them, or like we happen to chance across them online, or we meet them at work or whatnot. But the last 2 years have been the years where I've really said, I consider you a friend to me and you consider me a friend to you. In our relationship, what do we need to do to make sure that we're both intentionally building this relationship and having depth to it? And that has been such a beautiful process for me because I've learned so much about people. And I've really just enjoyed like hanging out with people with no strings attached. It's not like I'm revising with you or like we're doing something together. Just being in people's presence and really enjoying the present has actually helped and facilitated so much more self-growth than I could have anticipated. Because there's a patience that's brought out of being in the present, right? You need to really understand what it means to actually just, sit toe to toe with someone or shoulder to shoulder and be like, what's good? What's going on? So that whole celebratory piece, that whole like chill, like let's do that. That's new to me.
Yeah.
And I've loved it so far because it means it's also taken off the pressure a little bit. I think again, my background and pursuit of excellence and being that high achiever, when you become known for it and associated with, being a high achiever and being a perfectionist as well, it can be so hard to detach your identity from being a perfectionist. Yeah. To the point where it's like people don't even think that you're real because you're doing all this great stuff. And then it becomes really hard to reconcile that with the fact that sometimes you do mess up. It becomes really hard to reconcile with the fact that, sometimes you're not always at 100. And then suddenly your entire identity is rooted in how much you can prove, how much you can provide, how much you can create, and not just in being. So what's actually been beautiful about taking stock and taking time to be still and just, being present has allowed me to detach my identity from being a perfectionist. And it has allowed me to be a person, a person.
Yeah.
And I remember there's one quote that we shared on one of our podcast episodes that has stayed with me forever, which is, you are a human being before you're a human doing. And I was just like, wow. Actually be. It sounds so cliche and so unnecessarily, pretentious. But actually just being, like after you've done a thing or achieved a thing, just be and actually exist as a person, I think has been so pivotal to accelerating so much growth. So even thinking about something like To My Sisters, or thinking about all of the other things that I do, having those cultivated moments where I can just be Renee without doing Renee, man.
Yeah, it changes things. I'm so glad you're going on that journey. I've gone on the journey. I've come off the journey. I've up and down, down.
It's a sliding scale.
Because it, yeah, I mean, it's easy to do things. And like, it's just way straightforward. Being taps into this other part of you that's not as simple. It's not as, and I personally don't like sitting down and sort of doing nothing. You know, but I've learned you don't have to like that though. I mean, when I was in America just not too long ago with my niece and nephew, spent a lot of time with them. And so I wasn't working, but I wasn't also sitting there and doing nothing. I was chasing them. I was proving that I can do cartwheels just like, just like the 5-year-old can. She's like, can you do this? I was like, yes, I can. So, like, but that's a different side. Recently, I think I put it on Instagram, mainly because I just got back from holidays. I'm working sort of a lot right now. And I found out, well, I realized this kind of interesting thing, which was I would get home, say 8 p.m., 9 p.m. I'd be like, let me watch something. I put it on. The minute it comes on, I fall asleep. And I was like, why am I always falling asleep when it's time to like relax?
Yeah.
Like, I'm either working or sleeping. And it's like, where's the sort of that middle point of like watching a film, getting up, being like, it wasn't that good. Trying to make it for a film these days, it's like, let's go. I'll fall asleep. So, and then the friend, people are suggesting reasons why. Some guy told me about like chemical. I said,
oh no,
it's not that deep. Just
you gotta stop those ones.
But one guy said something which was really fascinating. He was like, have you ever thought of not working till exhaustion? He said like, finishing work and like, you're not tired, you're just done with work. In my head, that doesn't exist. You work, especially if you found something or you're responsible for something, you just kind of work until you can't work anymore, rather than I'm done for the day. Like, it's 3. I said I would work till 3. I'm done.
Yep.
That doesn't happen. So that was a whole journey that I'm going on even now. Like, what does it look like to be done at a time and then to actually do other things? And oddly enough, I was having coffee with a friend yesterday in Central, and we were saying, it probably, because he just had a child, so he's always sort of with his child. And we were saying it can feel like you have less time, which is obviously very disconcerting if you're someone who wants to do stuff. But it actually can make you a much better, say, CEO or at your job, because you're not that close to the issue anymore. I think I love detail. So if you're obsessed over detail, sometime you're just too close to it. Right. So you can't see it. You can't critically appraise it. You can't really measure. You're just too in. So when you come out, or you have less time, or you're forced to take time off, you come back with fresh eyes. You have less time. And even still, making decisions with like constrained time, I think makes you a better decision maker, because you don't spend a million years ruminating or thinking about an issue such that you have the whole analysis paralysis thing. So I really hope people listening, but also you, like, take more time and go on more holidays and more sort of
Coming
walks.
Soon. Oh, the funny thing is, I'm a big walker, and as you were speaking,
to the train station.
No, I'm actually a big walker, like a big hiker.
Oh,
yeah.
That's quirky, pretty cool. You're a rambler. You said quirky. I told you.
I told you I'm quirky.
You should join the ramblers. They walk for hours.
Really? That sounds like it would be up my street.
Like 2, 3, 4 hours.
I actually annoy my friends and family, because I'm that person that will take like a 2-3 hour walk just in the middle of the day, because
that's super cool.
I want to think, and I like. Obviously, I hate it now because the UK is an absolute cesspit of like cold weather, and it makes me sick.
I love the cold.
Really?
Because it punishes people who don't prepare. That's also why I like the rain.
No.
Prepare. If you wear a good jacket and a scarf, why do you hate the cold?
No.
Hey there, just want to say thank you for listening or for watching this podcast. We have a great desire to grow this podcast, and one of the ways we're going to do that is if you listening follow, or if you are watching, you subscribe to the podcast. The faster it grows, the more guests we can get, but also the better the podcast gets. So please, just do me a favor, hit the subscribe button or the follow button. Back to the episode.
No. I like...
And it's the cold that makes summer nice.
Look, if you'd like to be, if you want to join David Attenborough and become like his weather counterpart.
And here we have the... Sorry. So you were saying that you like walking, but it's cold.
Yeah. I like the point that you made around not working till failure. I'm a massive, like, I love strength training. I love weightlifting, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm also a big nerd, researcher. So I'll be out here researching all the things that I do just to optimize, self-growth, all that kind of stuff. Consistency, as they say.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about... strength training is to maximize your strength. You need to know when to go to failure and when it's inappropriate to go to failure as well. And it's typical for a lot of people to go to the gym and be like, I'm just going to work until I feel tired.
Yeah.
I'm going to work until I feel exhausted and then classic day after rolls around, all of a sudden I can't use my legs. I'm tired, and it actually hampers the intensity of your succeeding workout.
Correct.
It really reminded me of that. And it's funny because a lot of like my deepest sentiments come when I'm working out or walking. Those are the two times where it's like, lightning of inspiration strikes, or transferable understanding comes and hits me. But I think it's important that when we are working and thinking about workload and thinking about how we perceive our strengths and how we can build up our strengths as individuals, knowing how to honor the boundaries that we give to ourselves, and knowing how to honor ourselves as well, because it's not just a mental thing of being able to perform at your best when it's time to show up, but it's also about understanding whenever I pushed myself physically too, because there's the element of tiredness, exhaustion, there's the physiological ramifications of not honoring your body and not honoring the boundaries that you set yourself. And I love the fact that you actually mentioned, giving yourself these deadlines and giving yourself these boundaries makes you a better decision maker, because it does. It gives you that distance. And I think that that's a thing that many of us don't have these days. We are just in close proximity to everything all the time.
Literally 24/7.
24/7. Even thinking about like social media, one of the things that I've done over the past like 3 years or so is I don't use social media before 12. And that's been great.
Really?
I don't hear about I'd be turning on my phone, and I used to be having notifications on like news, Twitter, Instagram, this, that. Stressful.
Yeah.
And I need to use my phone to like contact loved ones in the morning, or like listen to those podcasts that you hate, all these kind of...
Good. Full circle.
All of that kind of stuff. And I don't want to be mentally bombarded or feel exhausted through these interactions that I'm constantly around. And it's funny because we actually recorded a podcast episode which was all about managing your time, managing your energy, but also curating your consumption and honoring your boundaries. And I think that one of the things that has helped me as an individual, but also I think really helps people, is being very, very intentional about what you consume and when you consume it, and the closeness at which you consume it too. So if it is, giving yourself those deadlines when you're working and saying, at 3 p.m., there's no more work, and at 4 p.m. I'm out here, watching Netflix or something. Back in the day, I was definitely also a workaholic, and it's something that ebbs and flows. There will be intense periods. But now, 6 p.m., when 6 p.m. comes, you will not find Renee at work, at any kind of work, unless it's like very, very important, or like there's been some kind of extenuating circumstances or whatnot. After 6 p.m., Renee is watching Netflix, Renee is baking, Renee is going on a long walk, Renee is having the time of her life, and she loves it. And that will help you last for longer. Last so much longer. You don't start to loathe it. You don't start to hate the work. You don't start to resent it. Exactly. And I think, I don't know, speaking from my experience, again, as, a Black woman, that like almost innate need to like prove myself, or that innate need to overcome or overachieve. It feels like it's almost programmed in you because of, the way that society has just gone down. Rebelling has looked like rest. Like rebelling against that has looked like rest for me. And I love that for me. That's beautiful. I feel so much more well rested. I feel so much more present. Like when I have conversation with my friends and families, like actually enjoying time with them, because my head is not doing like 10,000 miles per hour thinking about some other thing. Prioritizing rest has been such a game changer for me, because it means that I can show up as my best self when I need to. So good.
I feel like I should say, what can we expect from you? But I feel like such a no. Okay, so what I would love you to do, which is, we haven't really done this before.
Oh
so
no, not me
that
being.
sounds so
I know,
dramatic.
I was like, not me
You're
being the guinea pig.
What's happening?
What's going on?
This is market research. What's going on? No, what I want you to do is speak to Renee in St. Anne's.
Oh,
So she's in St. Anne's. She's 18. It's probably 17.
yep.
What would you say to her?
The first thing that I would say is chill out, girl. You are doing entirely too much. Calm down. Like, I was stressed to death when I was 16/17, just thinking about the future, thinking about if I'd get into, I think at the time that's when I was applying to Oxford, thinking about whether I'd be able to get in, especially because there was no one in my school that had been to Oxford before. So I was the guinea pig. Chill out and really enjoy the process. I know that's so cliche, but the process is often more important than the destination. And actually the process of applying to Oxford, the process of shooting in the dark when it came to Harvard, the process of building TMS, the process of, all of these wonderful, weird and cool opportunities that I've been able to do have built the Renee of today. So chill out and enjoy the process. What else would I say to my younger self? Go outside and have some more fun. Like really, really go for it. I think that sometimes, especially in my earlier days, I was very hesitant to enter spaces as my full self. I think what I really remember is when I showed up to Oxford the first day, my family had all come. There were no black people at that time. Zero. Everyone was just looking very, very white. Everyone looked white and everyone looked like they were absolutely like just wealthy, just riches, and like that was definitely not my background. And I often referred to myself as the chocolate chip in the cookie, and that was to be my
Sure. I see where you're going there.
That was to be my quirky. That was to be my experience for a lot of my university education, where I was entering spaces where I was the only one of, or I was the minority and all that kind of stuff. Renee, that is 17, 18, enter as your full self, because it's your full self that is bringing the color to these conversations. It's your full self that's bringing the interest, the divergence in opinions, divergence in thinking. I was too afraid to stand out, which meant that I actually minimized myself, which was a real shame, because it was literally, I think, in my, like towards the end of my second year that I really thrived, because I basically got to the point where I was just like, this is not working for me anymore. I'm done here. Like, I'm just going to do me, and completely thrived. Like really, really went for it. Loved my third year completely. That was the year that I probably did the best. In fact, I definitely did the best in my third year. First year, oh God. But I wish I had maintained that consistently across all of my pursuits. So really stepping into spaces, going to like talks and workshops and conversations and different job opportunities and different spaces, and just being myself. Like really, Renee, everything that I am. Renee that is quirky, funny, cool. Well, I think I'm cool. Renee that is...
We can test that.
You were like, I need some character references.
I was like, I'm going to need a few blind, some references.
So yeah, I would definitely say like step into those spaces knowing that A, you deserve to be there, but B, you have something to bring. Like just, even if it's just to bring your... Are you all right? Even if it's to bring just your different perspective, like really, really just go for it. And then the last thing that I would say to my 16, 17, 18-year-old self, you're good at what you do. You're actually really competent. I think even in the chasing of the perfectionism and in the chasing of the different things that I wanted to do, I never actually thought that I was good enough. And I constantly was getting from like friends, family, oh, you're killing it, smashing it. Yeah, go Renee, all that kind of stuff. But Renee didn't believe it. And I needed Renee to believe that she was good at what she did, because it's only an understanding and really like internalizing that you're good at what you do that you can articulate to other people that you're good at what you do, and that you can actually be that. I was constantly thinking, I was constantly insecure that my best wasn't good enough, but actually I was, and I still am, extremely competent. I have a lot to learn, and I'm embracing the fact that I still will always have to go on this journey of lifelong learning. But where I currently am now, where I was before, I was extremely competent. And I wish I knew that.
Thanks so much for doing this conversation. This is great.
I want more than just a piece. Wanna be heard from the west to the east. I worked in my craft and I prayed for my time on the scene. The man have never left my team. 19, learned the right creed. Nah, I'm not a right breed, but I might be. In my crease, Nikes, hit up my G. I'll still never sell out my theme. Well, you know about heritage, you go inherited. Don't chill with the snakes, but the flow's still venomous. Perspective is everything, so much lemonade, I don't know what a lemon is.